Yeah, yesterday Noah was giving me directions and he was like, "Well, I normally go left." And I was like, "All right." So I got in the left lane and he was like, "Yeah, and you're just going to do the opposite." And I was like, "No, I know that this is left. I know that this is left for sure." And he was the one who fucked up left and right for once. I was like, "See,
Damn it.
you make fun of me for not knowing, but you don't know either. So fuck you." You look a little stressed.
This might not be my best work today.
Oh my. Well, then then this might be the worst one that we've done yet.
I
I like resting my nose on my microphone.
Why would you do that?
I don't know, it seems right.
Sounds terrible. Quit it. Hey,
Okay, I'll stop.
why don't you go grab some pita chips?
Yeah, that's what I'll do. That's a great idea. Hey, Sarah, you dumbass, why don't you chomp your way through this session? What a dick. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, hello and welcome to the Mental Funny Bone, Becoming the Gaster Girls. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sarah. We're going to talk about mental health, but we are not medical doctors or mental health facilitators in
Or
any way whatsoever. Professionals, that's what I was, facilitators.
facilitators.
We're not professional anything. So, yeah, if you need help, let's get you into therapy, call the doctor. One of these days, we'll learn how to add show notes
I can do
and
it
throw
now.
some links. Okay, great. Maybe a phone number or two, something like that. So just be warned, we are not medical doctors.
Nope, nope. Nothing we say is reliable.
Nope.
Um,
All based on our own experiences. We are here
right.
just to share with you how we have stumbled through life thus far.
Exactly. So you kind of you know what you're in for here. We're not really
Yeah.
going to help you with anything, but we will make you laugh.
Yeah. We'll make you laugh and we might help you with something. I mean, I will tell a story in a bit about how the first two episodes helped me in general. So,
There you go.
yay.
Yay.
Hey.
All right.
You don't know what I had in the notes for catch
You,
up. I don't think I really had much. I just wanted to give a shout out to Rudy for sending us a fan mail. Thanks, Rudy. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your feedback. I'll try to talk faster. Maybe we'll give it a shot. There's a lot of shit going on in my brain, and I'm trying to make it all work right now. Take over, Christine.
right. Okay. So today on the podcast, we're going to do a weekly catch up corner. We're going to talk a little bit about entertainment. Then we're going to talk about the growing up gaster story of the week. All of these stories this week feature Jumbo and his underpants. So you might look for that as the title of this episode. Jumbo and his underpants. Um,
Jumbo
then
Captain Underpants.
Jumbo Captain Underpants. As I was re-listening to some of the older, some of our classics, some of our older episodes
You know, from the archives.
from the archives from early in April, I realized that I had covered Olivia's mental health diagnosis, but I hadn't covered my ADHD diagnosis and how that all came to pass. That's a fairly entertaining story, so we'll get into that in a mental health corner. And Sarah, you're going to talk about your therapy background and your most recent therapy appointment for the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to get a massage today because it was massage day.
Gross.
And I don't know, like, as I'm still super awkward while getting a
Because it's fucking gross, because there's a stranger rubbing shit on your naked body, and it's
well,
gross.
first things first. I like walk in and they're like, "Oh, do you want to add anything on?" I'm like, "Oh, the smelly thing," because I
Yeah,
remember the
sweet.
word aromatherapy. So she was like, "Oh, the smelly things. Yes, well, we have many aromatherapy products." I was like, "That's it."
Ding, ding, ding.
So, and then there's the race to get undressed. Like the therapist takes me into the room. She's like, "This is a massage therapy room," and she's like, "Okay, well, I'll let you get ready." And then she leaves, and then I feel like there is a stopwatch that starts, and I have to get undressed as quickly as possible. So I'm like tearing my clothes off, but I don't want to leave them in like a crumpled pile because I want her to know what. I see your
Do
hand
you
up.
stick your underwear do you stick your underwear in your pocket?
deep, deep into the most folded crevice of all
Yeah.
of all the clothes.
I think that's like a life stage when you say fuck it and you don't care.
Yeah, but I feel like there's that clock that's ticking and I'm like, "Okay, I gotta get undressed, now I'm naked," and, like, my worst nightmare would be if I'm standing there, like, holding the blanket up, like, a little bit, and she goes I'm like so I end up doing that really fast, and then my heart starts beating because I've
Mhm.
actually
Yeah. I've moved.
and then I'm laying there, I'm like, "Okay, this is relaxing."
Mhm.
And
No.
I'm
No. Nope, not relaxing at all.
and, the rubbing feels good, like, I must sit just with my shoulders touching my ears all the time, like,
All the time,
permanently,
all the
like this.
time. I actually just had the thought, like, I really need to just suck it up and go get a massage because there are so many things wrong back here.
Right.
But yeah, just like a pedicure, enjoyable for some, not for this girl.
Ugh,
Mm-mm.
it's so tense, and then I feel like
Mhm.
I'm doing it wrong, like, she finds a knot, she's rubbing it, and it's going thump, 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 like, it is a solid like, there's a rock under my skin, and she's just bumping over it like that, and it makes me anxious and upset because I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm making your day so much harder. I'm trying to relax out. Sorry."
Am I not breathing right? Am I doing something right? Is it the snot that is dripping out of my nose onto the floor because I'm face down in this massage chair? Is that what's screwing this up?
What's happening? What am I doing
I know I am not the only one who is snotted all over the floor at the massage place. I mean, like, the first time I went, I
wrong?
was like, "What is happening?" Like, and do I say, "Hey, I need a tissue," but how am I gonna wipe my nose? Like, what do you do? Right.
Right.
What do you do? There's so many reasons that I cannot go get a massage. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I was considering it. Now I'm not.
I mean, I feel great, tired, relaxed, and then she leaves, and for the life of me, I cannot remember if I'm supposed to wait for her to come back in. Like, am I
Mm,
racing to get dressed again? And like I get like I race and get dressed because I don't want to be naked ever anywhere. Anyway,
right, right.
racing to get dressed, and then I'm standing there for like a good 60 seconds. I'm like, do
Mm.
I go out? Like, is it awkward now? Like, do I wait for what if is she gonna come back in and talk to me about my muscles? All right, so I think we had 5 minutes
Did
for
it
that part. Yes?
hold
Yes?
on, I'm gonna extend it. You can you can wipe this out. Did I tell you I went to the dermatologist and forgot to wear underwear?
No?
Did I tell you this story? So, I forego the underwear these days. For any of you who don't know this story, I got too fat to wear my underwear. Now I'm too skinny to wear my underwear. And I can't get myself to spend the money on that, Hanes 12 pack on Amazon. I just seems dumb. So, in most situations, I don't wear the underwears. So I go to the dermatologist. I'm not even thinking. I'm going to the dermatologist for a full body check. And so I get into the room and she's like, "Okay, take everything off except your underwear." And I was like, "Okay." And then I went to get undressed and I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
I don't have any underwear on. Shit." So the whole like it is a perfectly normal temperature in that room, 100% normal. I am sitting there in the gown, no underwears, thinking like, "Okay, how I'm a funny person. I can spin this, just make it funny. It's fine. Like I can't be the first person who didn't wear underwear in here." I am sweating profusely, sweating, beads of sweat. They come in and I was like, uh, I don't have any underwear on."
I just blurted
And
out.
they both looked at me like, "Okay." Like, basically, "All right, well, I know you don't have any underwear on." It's like, "I figure it gives you more room to check, like, you could look at my butt cheeks now, I don't know." Then my face gets beet red because I kept talking and said something like that. It was an awful experience. It was a very awful experience. Anyway, lesson learned. Anybody, if you're going to the dermatologist for the full body check, put your underwears on. Okay. I mean, fair enough.
I posted our, podcast to Facebook, and I was really terrified about it. And I did it because I was so scared. I had to wait until I was in the airport in Boston to post it. I was like, okay, just do it. Just do it. It's fine. Do it. Just do it. And it turns out that, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
I'm proud of you. I think it was more than fun. I think it was awesome. Obviously, with me not being on Facebook up until yesterday, I don't have that reach, which we obviously learned is pretty huge.
Right.
Me just sending texts to my friends wasn't really getting us very far. I mean, it was doing all right, but yeah, you shared that on Thursday. We had our most listeners, our most downloads on Thursday, right?
Yes. 100%. Remember that first time after we posted the first episode, we were super excited to have 25 downloads?
Oh my gosh, I was super excited to have 10.
Right. Like these are 10 people I don't, these are like at least 4 people I don't know.
Right, right. You know what we hit today?
250.
250, 250 downloads. I'm kind
I
of
don't know if
impressed
that's,
with us.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I feel like we determine if it's good or bad. I thought 10 was pretty good, so I feel like 250 is hitting that shit right out the ballpark.
So true.
We can we can shut it down now and I'd be happy. No, I wouldn't. No. No, we're not shutting it down.
No, no, I'm having too
It
much
took a
fun.
lot of effort for me to get the Facebook shit together.
Are you done? So for people that haven't
I
seen
was petting
my
myself.
s my sister is just petting her hair, like, she's half listening to me. Like, it is such a Travis Kelce moment that, like, any doubt that we had that Sarah might have attention deficit problems, fuck. So, thanks everyone for responding really well to the Facebook post. Very much appreciate no one being like, "You need to stop doing this. You're terrible." I don't know why any of the people I've friended on Facebook would say that, but their response was encouraging. And shout out to Mary Kay for pointing me in the direction of Brene Brown. I can see that you're frozen again. There we go. Now I'm recording
Okay.
again.
Okay, technical
Good.
difficulties. Fuck.
We're back, but I'll edit those out so it looks smooth like butter.
Oh, I like it. Okay, sorry. Now where were we?
I was talking about Facebook and how scary it was, and thanking Mary Kay McFarland for showing me for sending me the Brene Brown link. So that was fun. Growing up Gaster story of the week. Jumbo in his underpants. So
Yeah.
I will set the stage because I was there for longer.
What?
So, listeners, dear listeners, when I was younger, when we were younger, when my dad was younger, he wore nothing but tidy whities. So, for those of you who don't know what tidy whities are, they're very small boys' underwear that are tight and white, and they look like underpants.
Mhm.
So, this is what my
I
dad would
mean,
wear.
when he left the house, he would typically put other clothes on.
Yeah, there would be pants over
And
them.
I mean, most of the time he would have other clothes on, but when he slept, he would wear nothing but the tidy whities.
And I will also mention that my dad worked shifts at the steel mill. So when we were younger, my dad would work from 3 in the afternoon to 11 at night. And then he would come home and sleep so that he could go back to work from 3 to 11. Or he would work midnight, which means he would be at work during the nighttime when other people were sleeping. And then we had to be very quiet around the house when he got home so he could sleep. And when he was
Mhm.
sleeping, especially in the summertime at our house, he would do this in his underwear because it was hot and we didn't have air
Mhm.
conditioning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Remember that big box fan that was in the hallway all the time?
Right. It was an elevated box. It was on a stand.
Yeah, it was on a stand. It was fancy. Fancy box
Fucking
stand or
sweating,
fan.
standing in front of that with your arms up to it.
Yep,
So
and
hot.
going, "Luke, I am your father."
Classic. Classic.
That was my favorite thing to do.
All right. You talk about Henry the hamster. You introduce your buddy Henry the hamster.
So I had a hamster. His name was Henry because we're very creative. And my parents were redoing the bedrooms and they were sleeping out in the living room. So we lived in a split entry home. and they were asleep out in the living room, and I guess while I was asleep, Henry got out of his cage, his crate, his cage, yeah, which I still don't understand, like, I mean, that thing was up it was up on, like, a dresser, so I'm very confused by how these animals do shit, but anyway, this asshole gets out of his cage, and the way daddy tells the story is they're in the living room sleeping, and daddy can hear this like scratching at the door, which the door, like our front door. So this animal got out of his crate, went from the end of the hallway in the split entry down to by where the kitchen is, down the steps, and then got confused what to do, apparently, and just was scratching. I don't know if he was trying to get outside. Like, what did he think? Freedom? I mean, he's dumb. He's not a smart animal. I don't understand any of it, but this is what happened. So daddy, there's scratching, and it might be a little fuzzy. I'm not sure if you know any of these details of how we all got woken up, but at one point, everybody was awake. And I remember coming out and standing at the top of the steps to the sight of my father. He's on all fours in his tidy whities going, "Here, Henry, here, Henry," in his fucking underwears. Like, I think your mom was standing on the couch maybe because she was afraid of Henry. I don't really know what was going on, but I just know that this is how daddy was rounding up. Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
yeah, I
Uh,
guess.
the freaking hamster. Do you remember any of this?
I have blocked this out. I think I was probably worried about some test score that was meaningless.
They were moving you to live down in the basement?
Oh, I was a teenager, even worse.
Yeah, because that's when they were knocking down the wall between my old room and your old room to make a big room.
Right, to make the big
Do you
bed.
remember this?
Yes.
Yeah, the attack of the mauve. It was
Oh,
the
that was
mauve bedroom. I
wow.
believe the walls were mauve, the floor was mauve. I'm
There
surprised mommy didn't color her hair mauve at this point in time. There was a lot of mauve.
This is when the mauve and the country blue went together like ham and eggs.
Ooh, yeah. It was a rough time for everyone in design. It was a rough time.
My god, there was so much wallpaper border everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it was really rough. So anyway, I guess daddy caught Henry. I think Henry died like a couple days later anyway. So maybe we should have just opened the door and bid him farewell. But
given him his freedom,
yeah, daddy did catch Henry. And yeah, that was a sight that one will never forget.
right?
Ass up, tidy whities in the entranceway of our house.
All right, so let's fast forward, I think. Oh no, let's back up a couple of years. So I'll tell the story about how our next door neighbor, Heather Swanick, hit me in the head with a shovel. So we lived in this sort of idyllic neighborhood. So there were what, 4 or 5 houses. Everyone knew everybody else. Like, you remember across the street, Janet Black and what was the dad's name? Jim.
Jim.
Jim, and the
There you go.
next door to the Blacks, there were the Swanicks. So there was Bob and
hmm
Pam, and they had 3 kids, Heather and Bobby and Jason. Yeah,
hmm
yeah.
Do you know the people, like, if you're looking across the street from our front door, who lived to the right of us? Do you know who that was? Like, I don't remember anybody ever even living there.
There were a couple people, like, when I was real little, there was a couple that trained dogs. So there were, like, huge, giant what I remember as a younger child being huge, giant dogs, and I wanted to pet the doggies, 'cause you do, and then the one knocked
Mhm.
me to the ground immediately. Anita went spastic, and then I was scared of the dogs.
Yeah. I bet they were wiener dogs.
Yeah. That's I was like, "These dogs are huge." It's a Jack Russell.
Great Danes. No, nope, they were just a little wiener dog.
Teeny dogs, small dogs. It's a Shih Tzu, Christine. It bit. I think there were, like, families in and out of there, like, they would stay. The one kid, there was a family there with children, but the parents didn't like anybody. Like, your dad tried to be friends with him, and he was like, "No, thanks, Jumbo. I'm good."
Mm, I'm good. You just stay over there, buddy.
Right. We're
Fair enough. Fair enough.
we're not gonna get a pool like everybody else. We're not gonna come to your barbecue. No, we're not gonna hang out and play cards with you and Lidley Oguses. So
I
so
love the yogas.
right? Best family, best baklava. So all the kids, like and it was a typical late 70s, early 80s kind of existence. Like we would just leave in the morning and the moms would not care. Nobody was like, hey, we should arrange a play date. We would just wander the neighborhood. Like we knew how far we could go, and we generally would be there what?
You would wander the neighborhood in your
Oh,
underoos.
in my underoos. Of course I would.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. I would definitely be out there in underpants designed. There's a lot of underpants in this week's episode. Me and Heather Swanwick and Lori Black would have adventures. I think on this particular day we were all playing some kind of superhero themed game. But the moms would be inside reading romance novels that they would pass around, smoking and drinking tab. Maybe coffee, sometimes tab,
Mhm.
but definitely reading romance novels and not like the slightest bit concerned where their children were. And you were like 3. Like you
Mhm.
weren't old enough to
Yeah.
be outside by yourself. And we were tasked with making sure nothing bad happened to you, which we didn't care. Like whatever.
Good news is I don't remember really much of that, so
Right.
cool.
We're wandering around outside, some kind of superhero theme is going on. I was a bad guy. I had a fantastic gardening set that someone had bought me. And back then, we were buying kids miniature versions of grown up things. It was made of metal and it was sharp. Like it was legit.
A legit a le gardening spade.
Right. We're just going to go ahead and give it to the 8-year-old. Good luck. Don't hit anyone with it.
Go ahead and do some gardening. Do some gardening, then go play, lawn darts. Have fun.
Right. Hey, if you guys need any knives or anything, come on inside and grab them. Anyway, so Heather swings around this because she's the good guy. I'm the bad guy. Whacks me in the head with this shovel. I'm, you know, I was surprised by this. And then, you do that thing when you're little, when you look at it and there's blood everywhere. And now I'm panicked. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to die. I'm dying." But I was also concerned because we had just had the driveway paved and I didn't want to bleed on the driveway. So what I did is I put my hand on it. Blood is running down. It's a head wound. So blood's running down in between my fingers, dripping off my elbow onto the concrete. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble because I have stained the concrete. And I get to the door of our home where I live and where both of my parents are home because my dad was working late that night. And instead of opening up the door and screaming bloody murder, unfailingly polite child that I am, I knock.
So
Now,
the opposite of what I would do.
you can imagine what my face looks like. There's blood everywhere. Blood everywhere. Nita is wearing like some kind of apron and some kind of bell bottoms with it. It's like she leans out from the kitchen, looks down the stairs, sees me outside through the screen door covered in blood, and she does not go, "Oh my God, my baby." She doesn't run down the stairs to me. What she says is, "Jump! Jump!" Which, and I'm out, I'm like, I'm crying, and she's like screaming at the top of the stairs for our father. He comes like stumbling, bumbling out of the back room again in his tidy whities, looks at me and goes, "Oh my God." And he comes down the stairs and outside. So now Jumbo in his underpants outside. because I don't know why I'm not allowed in the house.
He wanted to be like all the kids in their underoos.
Right, these were not under they might have had holes in them. I'm not sure. But anyway, we get me inside. We have to go to Jefferson Hospital where we have frequent flyer miles that summer, I think. Yeah, I get a couple of stitches. Pretty cool. Yeah, so that is scene number 2 with Jumbo in his underpants.
Yep.
So you're up for the bats.
So we'll fast forward past the Henry story, and we're living in downtown Elizabeth at this point. So it's a very old house with a few different, what are those? Fireplaces. Shit. Fireplaces.
Wasn't even gonna guess
Anyway,
places.
my parents' bedroom was downstairs and our bedrooms were upstairs. It was a really cool situation now that I think of it, because we had both our bedrooms upstairs and the bathrooms. The whole upstairs was just ours, which was kind of cool. Anyway, to go to sleep back then, I needed to have my TV on. And so I'm laying in bed, my TV's on, probably, Nickelodeon or some shit like that. And we also had a bird at the time. I'm not sure if we still had the bird, but I remember thinking that this was the bird. I don't know
We
if I
had
thought the bird came back to life.
we had a bird?
We had a bird. Yeah, one of those gray birds with the yellow and orange on them.
Are you sure we had a bird?
Cockatoo.
Don't say cock.
100%. Pretty bird.
Pretty bird.
Pretty bird.
You're thinking of a Jim Carrey movie.
No, I'm 100%. I will call mommy and daddy right now. I swear to God. I'm calling mommy. You're just gonna
Was
have to
the
edit it out. I don't care.
was the bird's name Pretty Bird?
I swear to God. I'm calling her.
All right.
She probably won't answer.
Hello.
Hi, mom. How are you?
Hey, I'm just watching the news. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Sissy and I are doing our podcast, and I started to tell a story. And I started it with the fact that we had a bird. We had a bird at one point in our family life, did we not?
We had a cockatoo.
I told you. And what was his name?
I'll have to ask Daddy, but I doubt we both remember what his name was. Okay?
Okay.
We'll go on.
Yeah, definitely get Jumbo involved.
Tell me. The cockatoo we had, do you remember what its name was? Lawrence.
It was not. You're so full of shit.
I'm pretty sure Lawrence was not his name.
Lawrence.
We don't remember.
I say it was Pretty Boy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What else would you old people and two girls name a bird?
Right. We have zero creativity at this time in our lives, apparently. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. Sissy insisted that we didn't have a bird, but
We didn't have a
I wanted to
bird.
prove her
We
wrong.
did.
Fine.
Anyway, I think
Yeah.
We had a bird. His
Yeah,
name
we
was
did.
Lawrence. We loved him.
we had a bird named Lawrence. Sometimes we would call him Pretty Bird or Boy or whatever. All right. We're hanging up. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
All righty. So back to the bat story.
We'll
We
edit
had
that.
a bird at one time.
His name was Lawrence.
You got to put some of that in.
Until we
The
started.
gerbil's name was Lawrence.
The gerbil's name was Lawrence?
Yeah, let's not talk. No, nobody's name was Lawrence. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so I'm laying in bed watching, laying in bed. The TV's on, and that's the only light in the room. And I hear this, and I look up, and what I think is a bird, because apparently I thought the bird came back to life. There's this bird is flying around my room, and I'm like, what's going on? Hey, pretty boy, or bird, or whatever the hell its name was.
Right.
And then I realized that is not a bird. That is a fucking bat flying in my room, a bat circling my room. So, of course, I scream bloody murder. Daddy comes running up in his tighty whities, and I'm like, oh, bat, oh, bat. He comes in, like, puts a blanket around me, gets me out into the hall, shuts the door. And then we're standing there. Again, were you here for that? Were you there for this?
I feel like I was there, but it might be that I've just heard the story so many times that I can project
It
myself.
might be because I don't think that you were there. I think it was just me and mommy and daddy. But anyway, so we're standing in the hallway now, like, shit, what do we do? So dad's like, all right, well, I'm going to go in. Again, still in his tidy whities,
I'm
going
going
in.
in.
So he goes in. There's some ruffling around, whatever, some noises. And then you hear him. He's like, I got it. I got it. Open up the door. And there's daddy with the Kennywood tissue flower. Anybody from Pittsburgh knows exactly what the Kennywood tissue flower is. I had one in my room. And that is his weapon of choice against the bat. So he was just poking at the bat with the Kennywood flower until the bat finally gave up, curled up into a little tiny ball, and just laid in the Kennywood flower.
Because he got
So
tired.
he opens the window. He opens the window, knocks out the screen, shakes the shit out of the Kennywood flower until the bat goes off on his way. But there he is with a Kennywood flower in his tidy whities, hanging out the window, just bouncing the Kennywood flower, getting the bat out of the way. Classic Jumbo, tidy whities.
You know what you can buy at Kennywood this year?
What?
Flowers, tissue flowers.
You can. Are they $900?
They'll have to be. I'm trying to get a picture
Yeah.
of one so I can show the people. Can you see the Kennywood
Oh,
flower now?
there's a Kennywood flower. Look at you sharing shit.
I
We are
know.
high
I
tech.
feel
Oh, they're like were they were they multicolor when we went?
oh no, no, no,
I think
that's all
yeah.
new.
I think you got one color and that was it, man.
Yeah, and I don't think they were
Oh,
this big,
wow.
but I mean I could be misremembering.
I don't know. They were pretty big. They were pretty big. I mean, big
He
enough to use
kept
as a weapon
that
against a bat in the house.
right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's our jumbo tidy whitey stories.
That is what it was like growing up in our house. Jumbo always running around in his tidy
Mhm.
whities, saving us from things while our mother stood by and screamed.
Right. Yeah, pretty much. Someone was screaming, daddy was saving everybody in his tidy whities. Literally
Right.
like Captain Underpants.
Like like the superhero he is. All right, let's move on.
Oh shit.
Do you want to talk about mental health stuff first or do you want me to go first?
You can go first. I feel like we're doing a nice little switch back and forth kind of thing. So I think it's your turn.
All right, I will talk to you guys about my attention deficit disorder. So I was confused when I started this journey because attention deficit disorder kids are the ones that kind of get tied to the swing set in elementary school. Like there's always that one boy who's jumping off the desk and creating a ruckus, and I never created a ruckus. Like I never did any of that at all. So it
Nope.
turns out there's more
Ever.
than
Nope.
one type, more than one type. And a lot of people just live their whole lives without even realizing it because they, from a very young age, develop these coping mechanisms that work really, really well until they don't. Until there's something that happens, like, say, your kid goes away to college, or you switch from a very high intensity job to a strategy job, and all of a sudden you don't have to solve problems every single minute of every single day. And then you start looking around and you're like, I don't understand what is happening with my brain. So for me, I started a new job and the job wasn't as intense. And I was kind of getting ready for Olivia to go off to college. She had just turned 16, so I didn't have to take her to practice. I didn't have to mom as hard when she turned 16, other than making sure that she wasn't drinking on street corners every night. So I wasn't as busy. And when my brain got bored, it got really, really bored and I couldn't get it unstuck. I had trouble finishing assignments. I had trouble turning up to meetings on time. Like in general, I was a complete mess. At the same time, we were figuring out that Olivia had ADHD. So we were filling out all these surveys for her and taking them to school. And as I'm reading them, I'm like, I do that. That's me. I do that. I do that. That's I'm like, well, this is distressing. So we get Olivia all squared away. She gets a nice diagnosis of ADD. She starts taking medicine and is able to stay awake in class and participate and read books and do all kinds of other stuff. And I pretend that what I think is obvious isn't obvious at all. So I continue to pretend like this isn't a big deal. And I'm just bored at my new job. And I'm just worried that Olivia's leaving for college. And yeah, I continue to pretend like everything is fine, except for that I can't finish one single project at work. And I feel a lot like I'm a failure and I keep messing things up and not understanding why or how. So, does that feel familiar at all?
Ding, ding, ding.
So here I am with what I think is attention deficit disorder, but I also don't have a psychiatrist. I don't have a good therapist at this point, but I really feel like maybe some medication will help me too. So I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see one of these online pharmacies. And I was like, well, yes.
I'm going to interrupt. Scrolling on Facebook, and
Yes.
I see an online pharmacy again. This actually reminds me at some point throughout this session or episode, we need an update on how your face is after scrubbing with the callus remover. Just
I
because you're the smart one.
we have established. We said it in the first episode. I'm definitely the smart one. But this is it. This is a nice. You can get like you don't have to go to the psychiatrist. It's all telehealth. You can talk to a real doctor. And so I make yes.
Facebook pharmacy. I'm just going to say it one more time. Facebook pharmacy.
Right, but it's legit.
Proceed.
Like I looked it up. I Googled it.
Mhm.
I Googled
Okay.
the thing. Yeah, so I make my appointment and this
Okay.
guy,
Yeah.
the doctor gets on, Dr. Scrubs, I'll call him. He's a psychiatrist and yet he is wearing scrubs. Like he was getting ready for surgery.
Is he wearing the surgery beanie?
I can't remember. I want like my brain wants to add that, but I'm
Let's
not.
say yes. Yes.
But you can tell like he's in an office.
Let's say yes.
He's got a pen and he's just chomping on the cap of this pen. I was like, right, this is how you're going to know how to
Yeah.
diagnose ADD. Just chomping away on it. And he asks me like 5 questions. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me. He's like, yeah, you probably got a little ADD. Writes me a prescription. And he says, hey,
Oh, he also has a Pittsburgh accent. That's fucking fantastic.
that's
Go
just
ahead.
me. That's just me. That's just me. I'm not sure where he was. He was probably not even in this country. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he writes me a prescription and he says, "Oh, you're not going to be able to fill this at CVS or Rite Aid." I was like,
I'm going to name him, well, I like Dr. Scrubs or Dr. Facebook Scrubs.
"Right."
Whatever.
Facebook Scrubs writes me a script, and the only place I can get it filled is a Walgreens in Uniontown. And I go to the Walgreens and I feel like a criminal. Like I don't deserve
Yeah.
the medication.
Because a criminal just gave you the medication, just gave you the prescription. You have
Right.
a criminal prescription.
Which is how I feel. And I go to pick it up and I'm looking around and I feel like everybody else in this Walgreens in Uniontown also had a sketchy prescription they were trying to fill. Like everybody looks a little bit sus. Every single person I run into looks like they might have done meth in the parking lot before they came inside. Um, but I get my medication and I
Seems
take
like a great place to be.
awesome. But I take my meds, and I think I called you the first day I took the medicine because I did like 5 things that had just been lingering on my to do list. And I was like, this is great. Bop, bop, bop,
Yep.
bop, 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 bop. And got a lot of stuff done. I could focus. I could bounce from task to task pretty easily. But at the end of the day, I did feel like I had spent all day with my brain on fire. I was like, whoa, that was a lot. But I kept taking it until I couldn't get that prescription filled at the sketchy Walgreens in Uniontown anymore. They were like, "Oh no, we can't fill this prescription because your doctor is apparently a criminal." I was like, "Well, are you sure? Like, cuz it's really helping."
It's like you thought it was a credit card. Like, can you try to swipe it again?
Right. I understand the DEA has a hold on that guy, but I'm not here for the party. I'm here for the getting stuff done at work. Like, that's what I'm here for. So
Yeah.
I then decided, okay, I'm gonna make another appointment. And I made an appointment with a psychiatrist who needed me to see a therapist first. So I then saw a therapist who I effectively tricked into thinking I was perfectly normal because that felt like what I was supposed to do at therapy, which may or may not be what you're supposed to do. But I mentioned the ADD and she was like, "No, you're good." She was like, "No, she's like, "Well, I can't write any prescriptions anyway, but yeah, you seem fine." I'm like, "All right."
So she didn't send you back to the psychiatrist to get a prescription.
No, no, she was like, "No, I don't think you need to see the psychiatrist." She was like the blocker for the psychiatrist at this particular practice, I guess.
Yeah.
So, there I am
Yeah.
with my Dr. Scrubs diagnosis and no medication. So that was like last year. And then we went through like the insurance changed 5 times. So, and I was more concerned with making sure Olivia had care. So, here we are a year later, over a year later. So I will give you an update in that I talked to my insurance company and I did a search on where I could find a doctor that specialized in ADHD and took my insurance. So the good news is the insurance website gave me 4 names in Murraysville.
Oh, perfect.
I was like, that's far.
Good.
That's far.
But see, we're doing this podcast thing, so you kind of have to do good things for yourself in order to remain a part of the podcast because that's a rule now. So
You can't
by next week, you will have an appointment.
You can't just make that shit up. I will tell you why I was so frustrated when we first got on, though. So I was reading something about like looking into doing the Dr. Scrubs thing again. I'm like, this guy can't still be in trouble. Like, can maybe just give me a new doctor that isn't in trouble? Online therapy. And there was a insurance. Like then looking on my insurance website, there's also a tele psychiatry thing that'll take my insurance, which I think is the hallmark. Like Dr. Scrubs didn't even take my insurance. They're like, we're not messing with that. We're fleecing you for the
Yeah.
money and essentially buying drugs.
Yeah. So you can do a telehealth thing through your insurance.
Right. So I tried to do that and I made an appointment and then got a notice that that appointment was canceled because God hates me.
That's not true. Why was
So,
the appointment canceled? Because I don't think that that's what it said.
no, what it said was, we canceled your appointment because she's not available on that time anymore. So I went to click and reschedule. And then it said, you have to make a phone call to a real person in order to schedule an appointment. And then I was like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You're gonna need to put on your big girl pants,
Not my bigger underpants.
underwear, no underwear, whatever you decide to go with, and you're gonna have to call tomorrow.
Fine.
Mhm, and even I mean, I've been at the same practice for 10 years now, and I even have to go into the office at least once a year. Now, the rest of my appointments we do remotely, but I have to go in and see her once a year. So it does make sense that you need to go to the actual doctor once, and then maybe do remote things after that.
Yeah.
No, I see your brain working, and you can't get out of it. You have to do it. You have to do it or you're not allowed to bitch about it anymore.
Maybe it's not that bad.
Nope, it's a rule.
All right,
Nope,
fine.
you are not allowed to say ADD ever again.
Can I tell you the ADD story from today, though? Because I did try to make an appointment today. I have 2
Sure.
computers I have to return from my last 2 employers. They're sitting on my floor. And I have clothes I ordered online that
Mhm,
I have to return. And I have this massage appointment, which is right
mhm.
across the street from the FedEx place. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So I get the computers all packed up. I put the boxes right by the door. Olivia calls right as I'm getting ready to walk out the door. I step over
Over.
the packages and don't put them in the car and don't take
Yeah.
them. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
ADD. Like, I don't know what that is.
Not just being distracted, but I don't know if that's ADD, part of ADD. I'm not sure, but I know that I do that shit all the time. Then I'll get halfway to wherever I am and I'll be like, it was right by the door. I literally had to look at it when I walked out the door. When I grabbed the handle of the door, my eyes had to focus on it
Right.
and I still did not bring it. It's
Right.
frustrating.
I looked at it and then I looked away. And in the time it took me to look away, I completely forgot.
Mhm.
Like when you
Uh,
hide
Yeah.
hide a toy from a baby, and the baby's like, "Oh, I guess that toy
Yeah.
went
That's
away."
pretty much that toy never existed. Fantastic. Brrr. Yeah.
Right?
hmm
Exactly.
Just like that.
So I think you are more
So
successful.
no, we're not moving on yet. You have an assignment
Okay.
next week, and I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget. Assignment, sissy, appointment. You have to at least have an appointment made. And you have
Okay.
to provide me with a phone number of the place where you make this appointment so I can verify. I don't think they'll let me do that, but
You could say you're me. They won't know my
whatever.
voice yet. Also, the skin
Yeah,
finally
exactly.
peeled off.
Yeah. So you're done, what's it called when they shed the molting? Is
I'm
that what
done
it is?
molting. Yes, I'm done molting. Here's what it
Yeah,
took.
you're done molting.
Here's what it took. It took slugging. Do you know what slugging is?
Oh, when you use the slug mucus?
No. Yeah, yeah, I mean, you could. I didn't use the slug mucus, but I used Vaseline, and I got in the shower, got my face wet, and
Mm,
put the Vaseline on my face because it's supposed to hold in the moisture, and then when I would take off the Vaseline, like,
got it.
layers of skin would come with it. It was actually very satisfying, and my
Ooh, that actually
skin is very soft right now.
yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea. Maybe we will market this. Foot scrub your face and then slug it.
Right, now we're beauty
I'm
influencers.
in. Right, and that would be our type of beauty influencing. Use the foot scrub on your face,
Oh,
let your skin peel off, slug it, peel off layers of it, and you'll be beautiful. Don't worry about what it's gonna look like in, like, 10 years. Don't worry about that. You're pretty and soft now. It's fine.
right. It is really soft. Carry on. I think you are more successful in therapy than I am.
If you wanna say successful, meaning I actually go to therapy, yes.
Yeah.
Do I think therapy has helped me over the last 30 years? Yes. 20 years, 30 years, whatever. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Are we ready to get into my story? Because I'm gonna read.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna try to read. Okay, so I'm not gonna look at you. And then I'm gonna get nervous about reading and my hands are sweating.
You're
Yep,
such a dick.
that's it. All right. So, my first therapy appointment was with a student counselor at Slippery Rock. That was the first school I went to in my 7-year journey to get my bachelor's degree. It's pretty awesome. The appointment was a result of several conversations that I believe I had with you, Sissy, or I made that up, but I'm pretty sure I had a lot of conversations with you and you were like, wow, you're fucked up. You need to go get help.
Therapy.
So, yeah. So this was new at the time. Therapy wasn't like, I mean, it was 98. So therapy wasn't something like you heard commercials about all the time back then. So this was kind of new. So I went to the school counselor and it was a little bit scary. So at the beginning of the appointment, I really just focused on easy things, like the fact that I wasn't sleeping. I literally was sleeping for probably maybe 1 to 2 hours in a 24-hour period, and that sleeping pattern was going on for probably at that point 4 weeks or so, like a monthish. So I was basically like a zombie walking around. And I feel like some people think that insomnia, it's just you're just not tired, so you just don't sleep. You're actually super, super, super tired. And really all you want to do is sleep. Like you're miserable, tired, and you just want to sleep and you can't. So when that happens, like my anxiety was even worse. Like, why can't I sleep? Why can't I sleep? Well, I want my brain shut down, blah, blah. So that just makes it worse, the anxiety of not being able to sleep. So here I was questioning what the fuck is wrong with me. And like, I'm going crazy. Here I am at Walmart's at 3 a.m. buying a John Deere comforter set. What the fuck? I wasn't going to class. That's for sure. But I'm not sure the whole going to class thing. I thought about this too. Maybe, I don't know if that had to do with my sleep or the fact that I was addicted to Rush Hour.
The movie with Jackie Chan?
Do you remember the Rush Hour? No, you remember the Rush Hour,
The
the little
game.
cars that you set up on the squares. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Rush Hour game.
It had
Anyway, so that I mean, I would be playing that, of course. Yeah, this was before you could play games on your phone, so you actually had, like, games with game pieces and cards and shit that you had in front of you. Anyway, it was a wonderful game. So, back to the appointment. I led the appointment with my sleeping issue, and of course, the therapist came back with, "Well, let's talk about what's causing you to not sleep." And what do I say? "Oh, there it is, Rush Hour." So you'll share that. Oh, I might have to buy that for myself just because it's so awesome. Anyway, okay, so why can't I sleep? Well,
right.
I go to lay down and my brain won't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. Like, what are you thinking of? I don't even know. I don't know what I'm thinking of. And mostly I think that I had that answer because I didn't really want to talk about what I may have been thinking about. So I skirted around the issue for a while, or not the issue, but the question and what I was thinking about. And we settled on the fact that I needed to get some meds to get my sleep regulated. And then once we regulated my sleep, that we could dive deeper into the underlying issues. So I got the meds. That's all made sense to me. I got the meds. I made my follow up appointment and I never went back because why would I? I mean, I got the meds. I was sleeping better. I was feeling better. I had made a huge decision to change things in my life that was going to solve all of my problems. I chose to transfer from Slippery Rock down to Cal U, live with mommy and daddy, and start anew. So that everything would be all fine and dandy, done and done. Awesome. So that's my first experience in therapy. Obviously, not everything was done and done. Things were a little bit better for a while, but absolutely no means the end of the journey. It was really just the start. So I've thought about it, and especially thinking about it today when I was writing this stuff out and kind of connecting it to what we've talked about over the last few weeks. At the time of my appointment, I didn't want to talk about my thoughts or my feelings or what I thought were my problems because I wasn't really giving them the credit that they needed. I'll try to make that make sense. My thoughts that were keeping me awake were basically how I was fucking everything up in my life. I was fucking up friendships. I was fucking up relationships with boys. I was fucking up school. I was fucking up work or lack thereof work. And there were a few other things that happened over the previous 2 years that had my mind kind of going. And it was a bunch of shit that apparently I was not too capable of processing for whatever reason. But I didn't want to talk about it because it sounded dumb to me. It sounded dumb that these trivial things would cause me to be anxious and depressed and cause me to not sleep. Like these are all normal things, right? So that's why I didn't want to talk about them because I was kind of like I should be able to deal with it, right? And when you think about it, like my story is not unique. We all have these thoughts. We all have these problems that we perceive. And they're all things that most people encounter. But some people are able to deal with them properly and move on. And some people are not, which this reminded me of diabetes. Like you brought up the diabetes the one time I was going through some issues. And some people are able to regulate their body's insulin, and some people aren't. So,
Yeah.
what are the people who can't do? They take medication. They take medication so they can live and so they can be healthy. So, sometimes we need a little medication to help things out. So, that's really what makes makes our issues or makes us unique is just how differently we process all of these things, and the different ways that we're able to move on through certain things. And I also had a problem, and I still have the problem, and this is something I don't think will ever stop when I think about it, is I think, wow, you entitled asshole. Like, this is what you're worried about? Like, you know what's going on in the world right now, and this is what's causing you to have anxiety, and this is what's causing you to, whatever it may be, this is what's causing you to cry. Look at all the shit that could happen. And I get stuck in that, and it makes things so much worse. So it's something that I need to remember to always, that just because these issues might not be, I don't know, devastating to someone else, or somebody might not look at them the same way, it's not really about those issues or their problems. It's really about how we're all dealing with them, and how we process them, and how we work through them. Nobody should be discredited for how they're feeling. So this got me to the point where I feel that there's two different parts of therapy. There's the actual talking to a therapist, and then there's the prescribed medication part, which I think that you led great into the fact that, sometimes you don't need both of them, sometimes you do. I think it's good to tandem them. I don't know, call me crazy. But at my first appointment, my doctor was able to do both. She was a therapist and psychiatrist. I guess that's how it works out. So she was able to give me the meds for the insomnia. In order get to the underlying problems that I was having that was causing me to lose the sleep, we needed to use the medication to calm things down, and then we could go back to it. And I've learned, probably more recently than I'd like to admit, that the therapy part of it is more about working through how you deal with these problems that you perceive, or the issues that you have, or the thoughts that you're having and your feelings. It's not so much about the actual problems, thoughts, feelings. Like, for a very long time, I thought that that's what therapy was. Like, I was going to go in, and I was going to tell them what I was feeling and what I was thinking, and they were going to give me some magic words, and everything was going to go poof, bye. And that's not what it's about. It's more about what we've talked about over the past few weeks, about identifying a purpose kind of things. It's more about deciding what you want to give a fuck about, what you need to give a fuck about, and how you're going to process those things. So obviously, none of that was all lost on me at that first therapy session. Again, I've been going to therapy since 1998, and I'm just now kind of maybe catching on, because I had my most recent therapy appointment last Thursday, and we talked about the Nashville trip, and she asked me how it was, and I responded to her the same way I responded to everyone else, that it was great. It was a ton of fun. One of the best vacations that I've had with a group of friends in a very, very long time. Then she asked me if I took my Xanax to fly. Of course I did. And I explained to her that the past few times I flew, that it wasn't knocking me out like it normally did. And as I suspected, she said, well, I can't increase your dose because you're already literally on a mega dose of Xanax. Like, we can't go any further.
You're on a horse
And
tranquilizer
the
already.
more we talked about it, pretty much, yeah, yeah. The more we talked about this trip and how I handled flying, even not falling asleep, the more I realized, wait, this trip actually was a huge breakthrough when it comes to my mental stability. I mean, I'm not totally stable, but I'm really working on it. And I think during this trip, even to my surprise, I didn't realize it until I started talking about it to my therapist. There were a lot of things on this trip that I dealt with, that I came through in a manner that I wouldn't have maybe a couple months ago, like the flying thing. So this time flying, I didn't freak out. Like the last time I flew in January, it was just in January. It was on the way home from Houston. We were hitting some bumps. I wasn't passed out yet, so I was freaking out. My watch was blaring at me to calm down and start breathing. So what did I do? I just took another half of Xanax. That didn't end well. Did not end well at all. And other than that, like, I'm known to start crying. I've tried to fight your father to get off a plane once because I was freaking out. So I have very bad reactions to the flying. So this time we hit a few bumps both ways. We hit a few bumps, and instead of freaking out, my watch never told me that I had to calm down because I never got that crazy. I just continued to repeat to myself that these things are out of my control. Like, I'm going to have anxiety. It's going to make my heart speed up a little bit. But me
Right.
freaking out and losing my mind isn't going to change the weather. It's not going to change what the pilot's doing. It's not going to change how this flight is going. Me losing my shit and crying and, I don't know, yelling at Noah saying, I knew this was how was going to die. I knew it. This was how I was going to die. I was going to die in a plane. I knew it because I've done that before. So I was able to work through that on both flights and actually remember the majority of both flights and be like somewhat a normal person. So that was a big win that I was able to work through. Don't get me wrong, I still hate flying. I will probably always hate flying. It wasn't fun. I didn't like it, but I was able to make it through and actually say after the flight, "Hey, when we got off the flight and Heather was like, "Hey, I was a little bit worried about you when we went through that turbulence." And I was like, "I did fine." I even when we did the banking thing and I thought we were gonna totally flip, I even looked out the window. Like, that's a big deal. And after talking about that, my therapist went back to the time in Nashville, and she was like, "Well, I was kind of surprised that you didn't have any stories in Nashville, knowing the amount of people that are always there, that you didn't have any sort of story that was like, yeah, you freaked out because of the amount of people around you, or you felt like you couldn't have fun because there were too many people around, so on and so forth." And yeah, I didn't freak out with the crowds at all. In fact, I think I did the exact opposite. I kind of embraced it, had fun. I was dancing with some people I didn't even know, and I wasn't even drunk. So that's one therapy appointment to the next, or to the last, to the most recent. And I really do think, I mean, these things might not sound like a big deal to anyone else, but anyone who knows me and how I react in crowded situations and on the plane and all of that, it's kind of a big deal. And I would like to think that our first two episodes and the podcasts that we've been listening to and the books we've been talking about, I feel like that's very promising because we've barely even scratched the surface with all of these things that we can use to better ourselves. And I feel like those two episodes have really already provided a lot of growth in my journey that I'm hoping to continue to build on as we go through this.
No, I
And so
like it.
that's my first therapy appointment and my last.
I like it. No, I like what you said about understanding that these things are beyond my control. Like no matter how bad I freak out, no matter how badly I scare everybody around me, isn't going to change whether or not how the weather or how the guy's flying the plane. Like it just doesn't. It's not going to. It's not going to help anything.
Right. Right. It's going to make my watch go off. It's going to make Noah, I, I don't know, look at me like, really, really, really. Yeah, it doesn't. That's the thing, is just understanding that it's out of your control, and that's really hard to do. And I'm not saying that next time I get on a plane, it'll be just like that. These are going to be challenges that I'll have every time I get on a plane.
Right.
These are challenges that I will live with my whole life. But at the age of 46, I feel like I'm finally starting to learn how to deal with these situations instead of just looking for them to go away. Like my therapist said, you're doing exactly what you should. You shouldn't be taking the Xanax just to pass out. You should be taking the Xanax to calm you down a bit and get you into the headspace where you can say, this is out of my control. There's nothing I can do. I just need to breathe.
That's awesome. Yes, and I like the reminder that the medication isn't something to be ashamed of, right? Oprah Winfrey did a special on the GLP-1 inhibitors. So that's the semaglutide and the Ozempics and the what's the other one? Tirzepatide. And she's like, people need to stop being ashamed. People need to stop call it cheating. Like, yeah, your brain is different. And I mean, if anything, being on that kind of medication and understanding like how normal people feel about food makes me sad for all those years that I beat myself up for my bad relationship with food. Do you know what I mean?
A For sure, for sure. And I've never I mean, I can see how people would be like, you don't wanna say like, people ask, "Well, how did you lose that weight?" And I'm like, "Shit, yeah, it was epic, man."
Right. Oh, it
I
wasn't
will
through
admit it in a heartbeat.
it wasn't through discipline and hard work. Yeah, we all have our own hard work.
See, that's and I feel like and I know that I'm pretty sure that you did this too. It's not like, when I first started it, I still did a strict diet. I changed the way that I eat. It's changed the way that I look, like you said, how I look at food.
Right.
I am able to eat a very small bowl of pasta and be perfectly satisfied and walk away. I can eat things that I want to, but I don't need to go overboard. It's changed all of that. So if somebody wants to call that cheating, that's fine. Go for it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I
But
cheated. I
I'm
cheated.
feeling the best that I have in about yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that because I feel better now than I have in probably 10 plus years.
Right. I feel like I go to yoga. I go to yoga and I'm not like
Mhm.
I can walk up the stairs. What did I do the other day? I walked through the airport. I was telling
Right.
somebody that walking last year when I started the job I was in Boston with colleagues and they were, "Hey, we're going to go to this restaurant. It's 3/4 of a mile away. We're going to walk." And I was like, "3/4 of a mile? You know what?
Yikes.
I'm just gonna get food at the hotel. I'm not now I have a lot of work to do because walking 3/4 of a mile would have made me sweaty and gross. And I would have had to explain why I was huffing and puffing like I just run a marathon when everyone else is just slinging on their backpacks and just walking 3/4 of a mile. Now I would be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. 3/4 of a mile is far, but if that's what we're doing, now I'm in. Like, there is something to be said for being able to walk 3/4 of a
Yeah,
mile, not cry while you're doing it.
yeah, it changes a lot. And I think it's it's changed my mental health too. It's changed
Mhm.
how I feel about myself. I think it's made me a better person. And if that's cheating, then
I'm all for it.
oh
Same th
well, I cheated. And I
Yeah,
continue to cheat and I will continue to cheat.
yeah. What whatever gets me to the point where I don't have to be embarrassed of how out of shape and fat I am. Like, that's never gonna be a bad thing if you're asking me. And it
Right.
kind of the same way for the attention deficit problems. Like, I don't wanna be the one who has to help Olivia problem solve because I couldn't remember to make her an appointment. Like, I don't wanna be that mom. That mom sucks. That mom is terrible, and that mom needs help doing some things. Like, I
Yeah.
don't wanna be the one that feels like an idiot because I forgot to, send the tax guy the document. Like, I don't wanna be that person. That's terrible.
Right. All of these things and it's it makes a difference in the people that we are, the moms that we are. I'm now going to cry for the first time.
There's no crying in this podcast.
But
We set it up front.
it's I mean, you've seen me when I'm off my meds. That's number 1, that's no way to live. I'm not any good for myself. I'm not any good for anybody around me. I'm certainly not good for my child,
Right,
and that's just dumb. So, I take my meds, I go to my therapy. Maybe in the past, I've relied on meds too much. Maybe I have thought that the meds would fix everything, but I'm learning, and I mean this, I've increased therapy over the past few years because of this, because I'm learning that I need the therapy. I need to figure out coping skills, how to figure this out without being a zombie. I cry more now than I have because I've lowered some of my meds.
right.
And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I should feel the feels. I should work through the feels, and that's
Right.
okay.
Like when
Meds
Olivia
aren't gonna solve everything, but they're gonna give you
like when Olivia
Go
says,
ahead.
"I get them." The depression on this level of medication is manageable. Like, she's like, this is where I can feel the things and still be a person. This is where I'm holding on to the side of the
Yeah.
pool. I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna drown, but I am still in the water.
Yeah. And that's what, and I know you've heard me say it before, and I will probably continue to say it as a joke, but I mean, there was a time where I wasn't joking when I said, "Oh, I can't cry. I'm medicated."
Right.
Like legit. And no one should ever be like that. You should never be like that. You should be able to feel some things and you should cry.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, listen,
Anyway,
we
that's
are
all I have for this week.
an hour and a half into it. So what are we gonna do next week? Because I saw on Facebook that some people are taking the journey with us. Some people are jumping right into the not giving a fuck.
I like it. I like it. So is that what we're talking about next week? Are we going to talk about what was it, the next part?
Yeah, I think what you and I
The
had talked
next
about,
chapter?
what we had
In
talked about after listening to it is that let's talk about doing some of that hard work. Like going to therapy is the hard work. Me actually dialing a telephone, despite the fact that I'm a 50-year-old professional person,
Mhm.
and the fact that someone put up a roadblock of dialing a phone threw me for a loop. Despite the fact that we're going to do all of those things that we have to do to be better human beings, let's talk more about how we do that hard work of finding a purpose, how we line up, figure out what's important, what are our values, what are the things that we're willing to work hard for, what are we willing to be in some pain for. So I think we're gonna go with it. See if we
Yep.
can do a chapter a week, or in some kind of cadence, come back to the subtle art and see if we can't work through that one. And then hopefully this podcast continues and we can do that with some of the other books. Try to focus ourselves a little bit.
Yep. That's exactly, I think that was the biggest thing that we talked about, was just trying to focus more. We were kind of jumping from Dan Harris to Michael Gervais to the subtle art, blah, blah, blah. And, with the attention or with the attention issues,
I'm
we
fine.
probably want to pick one and just stick with it. So we have chosen the subtle art. We're going to stick with that one. So I think we'll just continue along with that. And if you're planning on going through the journey with us, pick it up, start reading it, and hey, drop us a line, gastergirls@gmail.com. Tell us what you think about it. Give us your insight. We'd love to share it with the rest of the audience, because it really is, this is a group effort. I mean, it started with just the two of us and it will continue to be this. We're seeing this through, but we've invited a shit ton of people to join us on the way. So I feel like your voices should be heard too. So sh- send us the email, let us know what you're feeling, and we'll share it with everybody else. I mean, as long as it's like nice. If you're a dick, I'm probably
You're
just
just
going to delete
nice
your
with
email.
it. Yeah. If you have pictures of the Kennywood
Mm.
flowers, you also send them to the gastergirls@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, any old pictures of Kennywood,
Yeah.
that would
I was just going to say, I want original. I want original pictures of the Kennywood flower.
sailor hats with names
And
ironed onto
if,
them.
yep, yep. And hey, if you have pictures of tidy whities, let's see those too. No,
Oh,
no,
you're
never
asking
mind.
for trouble.
Oh, geez. All right. Sounds good. Love you. Bye.
You buy.